Okay, let's move forward. All right, accept what is. In order to find our new normal, we need to accept what is. This might be a loss of a job, loss of a loved one. It could be an end of a relationship, any number of things. But for today, I'm going to be focusing on our diagnosis of MS. So to find acceptance, we need to start letting go of what was. So basically life before MS. So to find acceptance means that we need to grieve what was. In the grief process, there are 5 stages. These 5 stages are not linear and they can occur in any order. These 5 stages are not a complete list of all possible emotions, and not everyone who experiences a life-threatening or life-altering event feels all 5 of these emotions, or responses, whatever you want to call them. So I'm going to briefly talk about the grief process. The first stage in the grief process is denial. Denial helps us to survive the life-altering event. In this stage, the world becomes meaningless and overwhelming. Life makes no sense. We are in a state of shock and denial. We go numb. We wonder how we can go on, if we can, and why we even should go on. We try to find a way to simply get through each day. Denial and shock help us to cope and make survival possible. Denial helps us to pace our feelings of grief. It's nature's way of letting in only as much as we can handle. As you accept the reality of the life-altering event and start to ask yourself questions, you are unknowingly beginning the healing process. You are becoming stronger, and the denial is beginning to fade. But as you proceed, all the feelings you are denying begin to surface. Next is anger. Anger is a necessary stage of the healing process. Be willing to feel your anger, even though it may seem endless. The more you truly feel it, the more it will begin to dissipate and the more you will heal. There are many other emotions under anger, and you will get to them in time. But anger is the emotion we are most used to managing. The truth is that anger has no limits. It can extend to your friends, the doctors, your family, and even yourself. Underneath anger is pain. Your pain. Next is bargaining. After a life-altering event, bargaining may take the form of a temporary truce. Well, what if I devote the rest of my life to helping others? Then maybe I can wake up and realize this has all been just a bad dream. We can become lost in a maze of if only or what if statements. We want life to return to what it was. We want our life back as it was before the diagnosis. We want to go back in time. Guilt is often bargaining's companion. The if-onlys cause us to find fault in ourselves and what we think we could have done differently. We may even bargain with the pain. We will do anything not to feel the pain of this life-altering event. We remain in the past trying to negotiate our way out of the hurt. Next is depression. Whoops. After bargaining, our attention moves squarely into the present. Empty feelings present themselves and grief enters our lives on a deeper level, deeper than we've ever imagined. This depressive stage feels as though it will last forever. It's important to understand that this depression is not a sign of mental illness. It is the appropriate response to a great loss. We withdraw from life, left in a fog of intense sadness, wondering perhaps if there's any point in going on. Why go on at all? Depression after a life-altering event is too often seen as unnatural, a state to be fixed, something to snap out of. The first question to ask yourself is whether or not the situation you're in is actually depressing. A life-altering event can be a very depressing situation, and depression is a normal and appropriate response. To not experience depression would be unusual. When this life-altering event settles in your soul, the realization that your life has and will change can be depressing. If grief is a process of healing, then depression is one of the many necessary steps along the way. And finally, acceptance. Acceptance is often confused with the notion of all right, of being all right or okay with what has happened. This is not the case. Most people don't ever feel okay or all right after a life-altering event. This stage is about accepting the reality that we have been given a diagnosis of a chronic illness and recognizing that this new reality is the permanent reality. We will never like this reality or make it okay, but eventually we can accept it. We learn to live with it. It is the new norm with which we must learn to live. It has been forever changed and we must readjust. We must learn to reorganize roles, reassign them to others, and learn how to take care of ourselves. Finding acceptance may just be having more good days than bad ones. We can never replace what has been lost, which in this case, life before our diagnosis. But we can make new connections, new meaningful relationships, new interdependencies, and instead of denying our feelings, we listen to our needs, we move, we change, we grow, and we evolve. We may start to reach out to others and become involved in their lives. We invest in our friendships and in our relationship, even with ourselves. We begin to live again, but cannot do so until we have given grief its time. Does anybody have any questions about the grief part of letting go? All right, so we will move on. All right, so in review, acceptance is the last stage of the grieving process, but it is the first stage in finding our new normal. And I call it radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is about accepting life on life's terms and not resisting what you cannot change. Radical acceptance is about saying yes to life just as it is. So we have 4 options with radical acceptance. We can solve it, but can we really solve something that is out of our control? We can change how we feel about it. Absolutely, we can change how we feel about it, but until we accept this new reality, our perspective and how we feel about it will probably not change. We can stay miserable. We could choose to stay miserable, and the sad fact is, many of us do. But it doesn't have to be this way. It's about making a choice. And accept it. Accepting the reality of your diagnosis or whatever is the life-altering event means you stop fighting. Once you have radically accepted letting go, there will be a sense of being centered, feeling as if a burden has been lifted. Radical acceptance means you turn resistant, ruminating thoughts into accepting thoughts like, okay, I'm in this situation, I don't approve of it, I don't think it's okay, but it is what it is and I can't change that it happened. So, there are 3 parts to radical acceptance. First one is accept that reality is what it is. Accept that the event or situation causing your pain, or causing you pain, has a cause. And third, accept that life can be worth living even when painful events arise. So let's go back to the first one. Accept that reality is what it is. So for my specific reality is that I might be in a wheelchair someday. My specific reality today is that my balance is off and I have a hard time even walking in grass. My specific reality today is that I have to ask for help for cooking simply because my left hand is too weak to hold pots or pans. That's my specific reality. So what is the reality that you're denying? What are you not accepting for what it is? Number 2, accept that the event or situation causing you pain has a cause. So accepting something that has a cause is not the same as identifying the cause. It changes the why me to why not me. Specifically with MS, there is a cause, but we do not know what that cause is as of yet. The cause is out of our control at this point. There's nothing we can do to get rid of MS. The control has been taken out of our hands. And the third, accept that life can be worth living even when painful events arise. This third one is very important. Not only are you loved by someone, but someone needs your love as well. You are cared about, you are needed. Things in life change, but just because things change does not mean that you should give up. The new normal means finding a way to continue living life. I mean really living life, instead of just going through the motions of existence. Any questions yet? All right. So the second step to finding your new normal is changing directions. The key idea is that in order to get from acceptance to the new normal, you first have to change directions. So now that we've accepted what is, and there is nothing we can do to control it, we continue on down the path to the new normal. This means that we need to change directions, meaning that there are some things we cannot do anymore, but changing directions means that we get to find things that we can do. We focus on the things we can do. Changing directions is when you keep turning your mind towards the new normal path. In life, we all come to forks in the road. This is where you have to decide whether this is the end of your story or a continuation of your story. I'm gonna take a drink real quick and then. Has anybody here heard of the Project Semicolon?
No.
Okay, so only one, all right. So Project Semicolon, it represents a sentence the author could have ended, but chose not to. The author is you, and the sentence is your life, and life with MS. The title, Project Semicolon, represents a goal, to believe that this is not the end, but a new beginning, a new normal. The founder, Amy Bluell, initiated Project Semicolon in 2013 as a way to honor her dad, whom she lost to suicide that same year. Over the years, Project Semicolon has become much more than just one person honoring a parent. In the beginning, the semicolon represented those who were struggling with depression, self-injury, addiction, and suicide. Today, the semicolon exists to provide love, encouragement, and inspiration for those who want to continue their story. So again, it's a matter of claiming that semicolon so that you are able to change directions, to find that new normal instead of claiming a period and just ending your story. So now you've heard about the Semicolon Project. All right. Third step in finding our new normal is participation. Participation is when you allow the world to be what it is, and no matter what it is, you agree to participate in the world. Participation has to do with the attitude and stance you bring to life, and in this case, life with multiple sclerosis. So let's imagine life as a game of baseball. You are the batter, and the pitcher throws the ball. So you have three basic choices. You could stand there and do nothing and let the ball just pass on by. You could move in front of the ball and be hit by it. Or you could swing the bat and hit the ball. Participation is hitting that ball. Any questions? Yes?
Or you could swing and miss.
Well, at least you tried. At least you tried. Yeah.
No, do it now.
That's okay.
I like it.
But at least you tried. Actually, I have to tell you a little side note. My daughter asked me that, actually, my 15-year-old. She said, "Mom, what if you don't hit the ball?" You tried. You at least tried. You didn't just stand there.
Well, and you've got three, three chances, three swings, and then you're out for that round, being up to bat, but there's another round.
There is, and you try again.
Yeah.
Keep trying. Nice. All
Can I say
right.
something?
Yes.
It's just like playing baseball when you're in high school or in the leagues, it doesn't make any difference. There's always another inning, and there's always another game, and you never give up.
Exactly. Exactly. You
I
move
tend-
forward.
Excuse me, I tend to look at it like my dog.
You know, the dog gets up every day and has no idea what happened the day before or anything. It's just like, it's new, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And that's how so her and I are partners, and so that's the way we look at it.
Nice, very nice. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I love the analogy about baseball. And I need to remind myself, and as you know, I don't have MS. I'm just an ordinary person. But the greatest baseball players in the world miss more than half the time. But if they don't get up and bat, they'll never get hit. And it can be discouraging, but I like to keep reminding myself that, you know, if you hit 3 out of 10, you're doing really well.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. Thank you for sharing, all of you.
You missed 7 times, you're still doing all right.
So in review, the 3 steps to finding your new normal is radical acceptance, which can be a challenge. I'm not gonna lie. I have, as you know, I have MS as well. So these things speak to me as well, not just to you, they speak to me as well. You get to choose to change directions, which is really important because you come to that fork in the road and you get to decide, do you wanna go ahead and go down the same path that you've been going and look at all the things that you can't do anymore? Or do you wanna go down the different path and go, okay, this is my new normal, these are things I can do, and this is what I'm gonna do. And participating in life, because I guarantee that every single one of you has something to offer to all of us and to everybody outside. Everybody has something to offer. So, having said that, I have a couple examples of how I found my new normal. When my youngest daughter was 7, I decided that it was a good time for me to find something outside of the house to be engaged in. I was a stay-at-home mom. I started substituting for our local school district as an instructional assistant. Not too long after that, I was diagnosed with MS. Working as an instructional assistant was becoming hard for me to do, so I started pondering what I could do career-wise. I knew that one day I wanted to be a counselor and decided that this would be a great career for me, considering that I had no clue what my future was going to look like with MS. I went back to school, I received my bachelor's, and 3 days later I started graduate school. It was tough. Grad school was tough, I'm not gonna lie. After I got over onto the other side of grad school, I realized what a toll grad school did on me. It was amazing. It was to be on the other side and look back. Wow. I graduated with a master's in counseling from Corbin University about 1 year ago. I then had a decision to make of what type of environment my counseling would take place. I have always loved anything to do with the law and the prison system. And actually, as an intern, I was an intern in the female youth prison in Albany, Oregon. So initially, I thought that that was the population I would be counseling. After much thought, I realized that this type of environment would be stressful, probably not a good fit for me. So instead, I decided to open up private practice. I still have stress, I have a lot of stress, but it is only 3 days a week, and for me in my career, this is my new normal. One more example is cycling. My husband caught the cycling bug about 4 or 5 years ago, and since we love doing activities together, I started cycling as well. I love cycling, but was never able to go to the distances that he could, nor could I go up the hills he could. My weight has a great deal to do with it, but my legs are also not as strong as they used to be. It was getting to the point that although I wanted to go on a bike ride with my husband, I knew that it was getting hard to cycle more than about 15 miles at a time. I was frustrated and getting to the point to where I was dreading going out on the bike. My husband came up with the idea that instead of stopping an activity that I truly loved, maybe there was an alternative, something out there that would help. So fast forward to this last June, and my husband bought me a pedal assist bike. The bike helps me go faster and longer, and now I'm able to cycle the longer distances that my husband can. It was taking something that had become pretty bleak and frustrating, which in my opinion was the fork in the road, and making it doable instead of not doable. I could have either quit cycling or I could change directions and find an alternative. I decided to find an alternative and continue doing what I love, finding a new normal. My desire has always been to ride longer distances and to be able to ride in the MS Bike fundraiser. Have any of you went to the MS Bike thing? Okay, yeah, okay, you do.
I've done the walking mess, but not the bike.
Okay, so not only did I ride in the MS Bike fundraiser, I pedaled 39 miles that day. I have been able to do on average 25 miles a ride. Next year, my goal is to ride the 50-mile loop. So it is coming to the realization that I have this new reality, because I really do. MS, that's my new reality. It's accepting what is, changing directions if need be, and participating in life. So now it's time for you guys to figure out what your new normal is. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, go ahead.
I hope this is an appropriate place. I'm wondering since you did the school thing, what is your workaround for writing and reading?
What is your what? I'm sorry.
Your workaround, what do you do? Because school needs a lot of writing and reading.
Right.
But what do you do if you can't write or read very well? What did you do?
What did I do?
Yeah.
Well, for me, that wasn't the issue. And so that's a hard one to answer. My issue was I was also in charge of doing PE, not PE, what is it, playground, you know, when they're out on recess. I couldn't do that. You have to be in so many places, you have to walk so many places, so that was hard for me. You know, it's kind of like what I've said. It's that fork in your road, and if you can't do something, you find something that you can do. That's what it's about, really. Does anybody have any new normals that they could share with the group that they've found, that they've come to a fork?
Yeah, I can't type with my left hand. I just write 75 words a minute. I can't type with my left hand. I mean, my fingers move about this fast right now.
Mm-hmm.
And after about 5 minutes, they wouldn't move at all. So there's a software program called Dragon Naturally Speaking where you dictate, where you just talk into a microphone and it types on the screen. You have to be really careful. Sometimes it puts some interesting words in there.
Yes.
And so you want to go back and check that. And there are also software programs that will read things on the screen to you. So Dragon Naturally Speaking costs, when it's on sale, about $100. And they come out with a new version all the time. And they're constantly trying to get you to buy the new version, but you don't need to. And for people that are going to, pardon?
Dragon what?
Dragon Naturally Speaking. For people that are going to school someplace, the school or the high school or the college will do an accommodation for you if you're registered with it as a disability, and they can provide things, people that will read on tape for you so you can listen to tapes if it's textbooks, if it's academic stuff. There's a lot of those kinds of resources, and if it's a work-related thing, vocational rehabilitation is another option. I mean, there's lots of them. But I love Dragon, Naturally Speaking, and they make it for phones too. It's free download, at least for iPhone it is.
They have an app for that. Anybody else want to share how they've changed to something that they can't do, that they've moved it to something that they can do? Yes.
Mine's actually in the process right now. For the last 20 years, I've been a structural firefighter. And that ended because of the reactions to the heat and mobility issues. The department that I'm working with has decided to let me go back to school. They're going to send me to school to get my emergency medical technician and my intermediate certification so I can still be a volunteer firefighter.
Nice. So, two perfect examples of coming to a fork. And instead of saying, well, I can't do this, so I'm just not going to do anything, you went to the other direction and you said, these are the things I can do.
We're starting that.
Yeah,
We're still arguing because we can't fight fire anymore.
but you're moving forward. You're on it. You're working through it, and that's awesome. Anybody else?
I think it's just life. I mean, you gotta mow the lawn, right? Well, if you can't mow all the lawn,
Absolutely.
you can. And, that's, that's one of the things I know I used to do. I always felt bad that I had to take, 2 days or whatever to mow my lawn instead of just getting done with it being done. Just everything pretty much, that happens.
Yeah.
Like you say, you just choose which one works for you.
Don't focus on what you can't do. Gotta focus on what you can do, because you really can offer so much. You really can. And really, I was talking to this gentleman right here. Specifically for today, I was talking about MS, but you can actually apply this to anything. We all come to things in life that are hiccups, and you kind of go, "Ooh, what am I gonna do?" And I'm not gonna lie, I get overwhelmed, and I tend to put my brakes on, and I don't want to have to change course. I don't want to have to go another way. But I found that it really is easier to go the other direction. But this applies to so many things. You can look back over life, and it really does apply to many things. Anybody else? Yes.
Gardening has always been the joy, my joy in life, and my peace, and my love. I love it. But my MS got to a point where I couldn't garden anymore unless I dragged around my walker and held onto my walker and then reached down and dig things in the ground. So I decided that had to come to an end. So now what I do is I garden in pots. I plant everything in pots, and dragging around the dirt, the soil and the compost and stuff, the bags of that is extremely difficult. But I do things like put them up on a rock ledge in my yard and poke a hole and then let the soil drop down. And so I don't have to drag the bag around. I just fill a little container and put it over there and whatever. And I love to have all my flowers blooming and looking beautiful. And now, of course, it's when they're going, tired of the 90 degrees.
Yes.
Time to let go and face reality.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm thinking that I'm gonna cut down on how many flowers I try to keep going. Because, they take a lot of water when they're in pots. You have to water them all the time. Maybe I overwater them, I don't know. But, so anyway, so what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is, I love to read and I rarely read. So I've started reading a book again. And I'm just loving it. And I'm gonna write a children's story book.
Wow.
And I have the ideas and the details, going. I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna get in classes at Center 51. And I've already started my life story, but I'll continue that. And there are just lots of things that I can do. And my brain gets confused, and I have to lay down several times a day sometimes, but that's okay, I can do it. My son and my grandson live with me, and my son works all day, and my grandson will go to school soon. But, it's all doable, so things are good.
Nice. Anyone else? Yes.
It's good to hear that she's coping with it so good. Listening to everybody in here today, and she is probably worse off than anybody in here, and I hope to pray that none of you ever get as bad as what she is, because she can't walk, because she lost her voice. She has trouble with her throat. She lost her balance. She can't walk, and she's coping with it. But let me tell you, I don't know if it's been mentioned in here, but prayer and family. And we're coping with it. She's been on that scooter for 18 years. And,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just as hard, if not just as bad, the members, the family members, their spouses, you learn to cope with it, but it isn't easy, but don't give up. Just pray and love them.
Right.
Whatever happens.
Yeah, agreed. I think for me, the biggest thing that helps me is my support. And not everybody gets support, but support can also look different for everybody. It doesn't need to be a significant other. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't even have to be your kids, which, you know, it's great to have your kids as a support, but support can be friends, they can be coworkers, they can be pretty much anything you want it to be. But support is, in my opinion, support is key, is number one. It really is. And it doesn't, you know, just however it looks. So anybody else have an example of how they've had to change? Yes.
I like thinking this is good. But anyway, so I was thinking about it. And there's this thing called audible.com that I've done because I can't really focus on the words. It makes me super tired to read, and I love to read. And so they're audiobooks and they're digitally downloaded or whatever. So you don't have to, I don't drive, so I don't have to go to the store or anything, or even the library. And so I love listening to those. And it kind of helps me get push through and get like the dishes done or whatever, because I have the store to go.
Nice. That's a great example too.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Any questions?
The anger part that you kind of went over a little bit,
Mhm.
that's me. I get up in the morning, sometimes you can ask my husband, I just, things just don't go the way they used to go, whatever you're doing, and I get angry, and I unfortunately take that out on him or whoever I'm around at the time. So it's very frustrating. That's a whole other issue.
No, I hear you though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, as I said, I didn't put it in these words, but it's legitimate. Anger is a legitimate emotion. It's learning how to handle that. And just because, I want to make sure that you guys understand, just because you might accept the new normal, you might accept where you're headed, does not mean that you're not going to go back and feel loss over what was. I feel the loss quite frequently of what was. But you also have to stay with what is too. So, you know, I want you guys to remember to be kind to yourself and give yourself a break, because it doesn't happen overnight. These things don't happen overnight.
One thing about chronic illnesses of any sort, like I said, I have ulcerative colitis, is it's always a step forward and a step and a half backwards sometimes. And you can go fine for a while and then things happen. So it's a constant adjustment.
Right.
And you can be angry. You don't just get over it and life is peachy keen all the time. I mean, we live in a society, of course, where being a person that was very type A, I guess you'd say, or very, you know, having to do 8,000 tasks a day to feel good about yourself, you know what I mean? I mean, you did all this stuff, and everybody, you know, I mean, you don't have to.
Right.
You know, we live in a society that thinks you have to do everything all the time, or you don't have to. And that's what I'm going through now, is accepting the fact that I don't have to.
Right.
Life is still good. I don't have to. If I get up and I don't feel good, I don't have to. You know, and it's okay.
Right.
I don't
It's
care what anybody
allowing-
else thinks.
It's allowing yourself that.
Yeah, I'm allowing myself more leniency on these
Mhm.
things instead of being so rigid.
Right. Right. Anyone else?
One of the things I've learned is that I'm amazed at the number of things that I have on my to-do list, and when I don't do them, it really doesn't matter.
That's right.
The world doesn't care.
Life goes on.
And I wish I'd learned that back when I was capable of doing all those things. It just would have simplified life a whole lot.
True. True story.
Even, you know, taking that to the extent that even to like my hair, for example, I used to have longer hair and I would put it up in a braid or whatever on my head. And now I keep it short, and I just, you know, I just don't, I don't have to try to look beautiful like I used to. I mean, I feel beautiful the way I am now, and, yeah, it's just, I'm gonna be 64, and I don't know if that's getting older, or if it's just accepting things, but I don't have to do things, I don't have to wear makeup, you know, I wear some. I don't have to wear mascara, I don't have to, no, it's cool.
Yeah, that's acceptance right there. It is acceptance.
So she did the pitting in your 60s.
That's right. That's
All right, yes.
There's just things for me that I don't realize I can't do until I do them. And so that's always a grieving process.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Example, my husband and I would yearly take a little vacation to Maui. And it's like they have a volcano bike ride downhill. And I used to always do that.
Mhm.
And then 5, 6 years ago, when things started changing for me a lot, I realized I can't do that anymore. So time to move on and do what you can do.
Exactly. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, I've done that before. Used to do all kinds of excursions and stuff, going to Eastern Oregon and things. And one, like she was saying, bike ride downhill, and did it last year. I did it. I said, you know, I'm done doing that. I've done it once, and I'm having fun, and I'm not gonna try it again. And then now we do something completely different, and it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It is okay.
Instead of feeling like I'm not gonna be able to do this, I'm not gonna be able to do this.
Right.
It's like, all right, let's go.
It's what can you do?
Exactly.
Yeah, nice. Nice examples. All right, Carol. It's your turn.
Well, thank you all for being here. Stephanie, are you going to have any more information
Like, in what way?
today? Or are you wrapped up?
I am wrapped up.
Okay.
I am all wrapped up.
Just wanted to double check there. Thank you all for being here, and you started some really good discussion